Okay, pause where you are. Let's go ahead and get started. We'll start with a review. Have your handout packet handy. Not a whole lot of notes that we had to take because a lot of it's on your handout, but have your handout ready as well, please. And let's start with what is deism? What's deism? Deism. Who can tell me what deism is? Anybody remember? I know it's been a while. It seems like it's been a month. Bryson?
Is that like a religion where you believe that like God created the earth, but then like let nature take over?
Yeah, you have the concept down. Yes, God creates the world and then stays out of it. Yes, and that's what a deist is. Who's Sally Hemings? Who's Sally Hemings? Sally Hemings. Kaylee?
One of Jefferson's slaves. She was also the mother of some children.
Yes. And there is definitely some controversy there. We're not going to shy away from that. The fact that she was a slave. There was stories that there was abuse there, and there were also stories that he treated her very kindly as if she was his wife. I'm not going to tell you how to think on that, but there is both sides there. That said, keep in mind, Jefferson did want to end slavery. Okay, he did want to end slavery in the Declaration. Just something to keep in mind. Okay. And also the half sister of his wife, Martha Jefferson. What's mudslinging? What's mudslinging? This election has mudslinging. Go ahead. Yes, and that does happen, and I just have to show you that. Mud pies. Best I could do, Bryson. Thanks for playing. Okay, on we go. So let's talk about the election of 1800 just because it's on your handout next in order. And we will go from there. So let's go to page 2. And again, I know we covered this 2 weeks ago, but which two candidates received identical electoral votes? Which two candidates? Georgia. Jefferson and Burr. So who had to select the winner? Should be more so what body of government had to select the winner? Anybody have it? Go ahead. The House of Representatives, yes. Which amendment then later prevented this situation from happening ever again? Jesse. And that was 1804. Good. Who was James Baird? And what did Jefferson promise him? Go ahead.
He was a Federalist and he did not fire. Jefferson promised him he would not fire all of the Federalists.
Yes, and he would also keep some Federalist programs. But take notice the way I said that. He said he would keep some Federalist programs. He definitely did get rid of quite a few Federalist programs. He was a Republican and he did not agree with all the Federalists, okay? So I do want you to understand that, okay? One of the big ones. Throwing this at you, ice cold, on a cold Monday morning. One thing that John Adams did that Jefferson wasted no time getting rid of. About the only real big thing that he did legislatively. I'll give you. Okay, we got it. We got it. Go ahead.
The alien institution.
Yeah, and Jefferson wasted no time getting rid of those. No time. Okay, and that's something to keep in mind. Jefferson did get rid of the Alien Institution Act. I'll talk more about it. So, why was the election of 1800 a turning point in history? Ella, what do you got? And you said that very, very well. You said a lot. Make sure you throw in the word Constitution there. Okay, the government, as you mentioned, yes. It showed that the two-party system could work. It showed that the loser would accept defeat. Now, let me be clear. Adams didn't like defeat. He did not stay around to watch Jefferson inaugurated. No way. It's only ever happened one other time in history, and you might remember about this time last year. Yeah, it's the only other time it happened. Other than that, the loser did stay around to see the new president inaugurated. Okay. Make sure, I want to make sure I'm clear. It was a first test of the new Constitution. You really want to know that. Okay. What were some things Jefferson worked for? 221 there. Ella, go ahead, please.
He worked to kind of deroyalize the role of the presidency.
Nope.
Like the stigma that it had around it.
Yeah, he did. He was really called the uncommon common man. Obviously, he's not. He's kind of uncommon because not many people have ever been president. But yes, he was very more informal. If you knocked on the door at the White House, chances are Jefferson would answer the door himself. Okay. That hasn't happened. No other president did that. Okay. You could see Jefferson walking around the streets in Washington, D.C. Very common. What else we got there? Anything else for that? What were some other things he worked for? Make sure to keep in mind agrarianism. Okay. And Maggie? Say again?
Like less debt.
Yeah, less debt. Yes, he was really against whose program was that? To inherit the debts. Good.
Hamilton.
Yeah, he was really opposed to Hamilton and Hamilton's views. Okay. Speaking of Hamilton, who did he support in the election of 1800? Let's make sure we keep that in mind too. Go ahead.
Jefferson.
Jefferson. So that means he did not support who? Burr. Good morning for that, isn't it? Hayden, get in the game. Cool. Okay, so we got James Baird, and Jefferson promised him about the Federalist programs, but Jefferson did get rid of some. Okay, so here we go. We'll just go through this. Again, we've covered it, I think, very thoroughly, but you can see up there on the screen. And the catch here is Jefferson and Burr did receive the same amount of electoral votes, so therefore both claim victory. Okay, and even when Aaron Burr does go on to shoot Hamilton, Aaron Burr was actually still vice president of the United States when that all happened. Okay. Okay, we'll talk more about that. All right, so you want to think of 1800 as really a revolution in politics, a revolution in certainly in presidential elections. Okay, and basically we covered all of that. But think of 1800 as a very important election. And once again, what amendment, everybody? The 12th Amendment. Yes, in 1804. Okay. All right, so to be crystal clear, up on the screen as we've gone over before, but let's be clear. The election of 1800, why is it so important? It showed that the two-party system can work. Peaceful transfer of power. Make sure you get it. And it was definitely the first test for the new Constitution. Both sides honored the Constitutions. And all elections since have done the same. Has there been squabbling, arguing, fighting? Yeah. But presidential elections have remained a constant. The president has been inaugurated on January 20th ever since the amendment was changed, or the Constitution was changed in 1850. And I want you to really understand that last part there, number 3. And let me make this other point for number 3. Even during the Civil War, we had a presidential election. Lincoln was up for re-election during the Civil War. So I really want you to know that this set the course of history, or course for history. Okay? Even during the Civil War, we had elections. Country's broken in half. I'll tell you straight up, the South didn't vote in the election, but still very important that we understand this key election. Okay? The Revolution of 1800. Guarantee you we'll see this on the final exam. Know it. Okay? Know this. Let's read it one more time just to hear it. Bryson, if you would.
Election of 1800 showed that two-party system can work. There was a peaceful transfer of power despite strong disagreements between the parties. This first test for the new Constitution. Both sides honored the Constitution, and all elections since have done the same.
Okay. So we want to know this very important election in history. They were majoring in political science. You're going to study this election through and through. Okay? Georgia, if you major in history, you're going to study this election too. Okay? All right, moving on then. One key point of his inauguration address was he said, and I want you to write down this quote, "We are all Republicans, we are all Federalists. We are all Republicans, we are all Federalists." We are all Republicans. We are all Federalists. What does that mean? What does that mean? What's he saying there? Who can paraphrase for us? Go ahead, please.
The way I kind of interpret is like you may have the same beliefs as Republicans, and you also may have the same beliefs as Federalists. Like you may have,
There could be some overlap there in political views. Yes. Okay. I'll give you that. What else is he saying? What else is he saying? Kaylee, what else do you think?
maybe that even though we all have different thoughts, we're all just the same basic people.
Okay. Same basic people. Okay. Aiden, what do you think?
That basically saying everyone's the same, even though we have a differences, we're all people.
And I like all those answers. I would just submit, certainly emphasizing we're all Americans. Might be Republican, might be Federalist, but we're all Americans. Okay, and just one point here to make. Jefferson was the first to be inaugurated in Washington, D.C. It was a little more than a village. Okay, I do want to mention that. Okay, the first to be inaugurated in Washington, D.C. Of course, Washington served in New York, Adams, Philadelphia. Adams actually did serve part of his presidency in Washington, D.C., but Jefferson was the first to be inaugurated, and every president has been since. At that time, it was not called the White House. It was actually Teddy Roosevelt that said that. Teddy Roosevelt said, "Get me back to that White House," and the name stuck ever since. Okay, flip over to page 8 of your handout, please. You can turn the other light on since we're going to read from the paper. Thank you. Down at the bottom, the election of 1800. Okay, let's take a look at this. Evelyn, please.
During Adams' presidency, the Federalists rapidly lost popularity. People disliked the Alien and Sedition Acts and complained about the new taxes imposed by the Federalists to pay the costs of preparing for war against France. Though Adams avoided war, he had persuaded Congress that building up the U.S. Navy was necessary for the nation's defense.
And the election results there on 9. Keep going, please.
The election of 1800 swept the Federalists from power in both the executive and legislative branches of the U.S. A majority of the presidential electors cast their ballots for two Democratic Republicans, Thomas Jefferson and Aaron Burr. Because both these candidates received the same number of electoral ballots, it was necessary, according to the rules in the original Constitution, to hold a special election in the House of Representatives to break the tie. In December 1800, the Federalists took control of the House. They debated and voted for days before they finally gave a majority to Jefferson. Alexander Hamilton had urged his followers to vote for Jefferson, whom he considered less dangerous and of higher character than Burr. Democratic Republican lawmakers elected in 1800 took control of both the House and the Senate when a new Congress met in March 1800.
Okay, peaceful revolution. And while you're at it, Evelyn, you might as well keep going.
The passing of power in 1801 from one political party to another was accomplished without violence. This was a rare event for the times and a major indication that the U.S. constitutional system would endure the various strains that were placed upon it. The Federalists quietly accepted their defeat in the election of 1800 and peacefully relinquished control of the federal government to Jefferson's party, the Democratic Republicans. The change from Federalist to Democratic Republican control is known as the Revolution of 1800.
So we'll go to page 10. Who can be Thomas Jefferson? Let's hear the words. Have a volunteer. Come on, get confidence. Who is confidence? Please, George. Now you have to be, let us then. Well, however you want to do
Let us then, fellow citizens.
it. You're doing great. Go ahead.
Let us then, fellow citizens, unite with one heart and one mind. Let us restore to social intercourse that harmony and affection without which liberty and even life itself are but dreary things. But every difference of opinion is not a difference of principle. We have called by different names brethren of the same principle. We are all Republicans. We are all Federalists.
Underline that. We are all Republicans. We are all Federalists. It's a commercial break. Gracie, you're missing it. Unless you're hiding from it. Maybe you're hiding from it. Okay, the first thing Jefferson did as president was work to repeal the Alien and Sedition Acts. Who's this guy? Don't say Jefferson. John Adams.
I didn't think they were so bad.
Well, that took time. See that? Look at that. Shh. Okay. And obviously, they were Federalist programs that Jefferson did work to get rid of. Okay. Again, can't emphasize enough the political climate of the time. A lot of arguments against Adams. There was fighting. Should we go to war against France? Not go to war against France. Should we go to war against Britain? Not go to war against Britain. And to have Jefferson come in saying that quote really did set the course. Okay, it really did. And the Constitution being brand new, the founding father, Washington, out of office, made a lot of people uneasy. Okay. Okay, talking about the Supreme Court here. Those are the current justices on the United States Supreme Court. How do you get on the Supreme Court? A little bit of civics coming at you. How do you get on the court? Nobody knows. Bryson knows. Go ahead.
Doesn't like the president have to appoint you?
The president appoints, and there is one more step. There's one more step. Go ahead.
A trial? I think.
Not necessarily. Could be, though. There are hearings, yes. Not necessarily. You don't have to have the hearings, but they have over the last several appointees, yes. Who holds the hearings? Don't make it too hard. Think. Who would hold the hearings? Now, it can't be the president because the president does the appointing. Obviously, that would kind of go well, wouldn't it? Go ahead.
House Representative.
You're close. You're very close. You're almost boiling.
Senate.
Go ahead. The Senate. Yes, the Senate. So I do want you to know that. You're appointed by the president and then approved by the Senate. Or not approved. And sometimes that does happen. Okay? Now, having said that, what happens when the president who appoints you leaves office? What happens when the president who appoints you leaves office? Anybody know? Maggie?
Don't you stay on?
Yes, you stay on. And that's something I definitely want you to know. You have to know that to understand Marbury versus Madison court case. If the president who appoints you leaves office, you stay. Now, you can resign. You can retire. Okay, you don't have to stay for life, but a lot of Supreme Court justices do stay for a very long time, well into their 80s. Some stay for the rest of their lives. Okay, and as you can see up there, many have been appointed by Republicans that are still there. Okay, and then you can see, of course, some nominated by a Democratic president, and all of those nominated by a Democratic president, I believe, were President Obama. Not 100% sure with Stephen Breyer, but Elena Kagan and Sonia Sotomayor, they were appointed by President Obama. Clarence Thomas, up here, he was actually appointed by George Bush Sr., the first George Bush, back in 1991. Okay, so it's still there. John Roberts was actually appointed by George Bush II. So they've been there a long time. Okay, and it's important to know that. Okay, so we answered the first two questions. Again, for number 2, you can retire, you can resign. What are requirements to serve on the Supreme Court? Well, go ahead.
Don't you have to be in well, I think you have to be involved in politics in your state, like the Senate.
It's a very trick question. It's very much a trick question. Good.
Don't you have to be a judge?
What were you going to say?
I was gonna say there are none.
There are none. There's no age requirement. There is no background requirement. There's no professional requirements, none whatsoever. If you look at the Constitution, there is no requirement. Whereas a president, you must be 35, natural born citizen. Supreme Court, none of that. So could the president appoint a 2-year-old baby? Yes. Would the Senate approve it? Probably not. Okay. But there are no requirements. Now, most of those people, in fact, every one of them, I believe, have been judges. I believe all 9. Yeah, they've all been. Okay. So what did the impeachment of Justice Samuel, not Salmon Chase, establish? That we want to know because that's a key concept here. The impeachment. Now, why do I say Salmon Chase? Well, there's both. There actually is, and that's pronounced salmon, even though it's spelled like salmon, as in the fish. Go ahead.
Judges can only be removed if it's because of criminal action. They can't be removed based off of someone's opinion.
Bingo. And that's very important to understand. You have to be removed for some type of judicial misconduct, a crime. Okay, it can't be because the next president coming in doesn't like you or doesn't want you. Go ahead.
So how does the president come about these people that he appoints as part of the Supreme Court?
Excellent question. The president has lots of advisors, and a lot of them are on the judicial advisors to the president. And that's usually how they come up with the names. Okay. A lot of these people actually served in the U.S. district courts and the U.S. district courts of appeals. So they're pretty well known. Okay. I don't think, however, Amy Coney Barrett actually did. She was actually a law professor. Now, she was, I believe, a Supreme Court judge in the state of either Indiana or Illinois. But then she was a college professor actually at Notre Dame. I don't think she was actually in the U.S. district courts or the U.S. District Court of Appeals. Most of the others have been. Very good question. So the answer to your question is the president relies on advisors. Okay? Okay, and that brings us to a very important court case in U.S. history, Marbury versus Madison. Marbury versus Madison. And as you can see, I have an essential question there. This was an extremely important court case regarding the Supreme Court's power. And how much power did the Supreme Court actually have? Well, the key to keep in mind here is before this court case, the Supreme Court had very little power.